Happy New Year. What's up, everyone? I saw 𝗂𝐻𝐻 pop in here. Hello, girl. We are talking about this case thanks to you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. You love the intro. Let me see. Who's here? Who's here? Happy New Year. I hope you guys all had a great holiday. I hope you guys have a wonderful, beautiful, healthy, successful, wealthy year ahead of you. We're back to the true crime. I know there's been a lot going on already for 2025, all in the news, the headlines, terrible. But we're going to talk about Dr. Devon Hoover today. Hello, let me say hi to everyone. I saw Debbie pop in here. Cole, Jojo, hello, Jojo, I've missed you. 𝗏𝐶𝐶, I saw Scott, Pantera, hello, Danny, Britt Nicole, yay, Gracie's here, and 𝗂𝐻𝐻. And shout out to 𝗂𝐻𝐻. She recommended this case. I had heard of it, but it had been a while. So I did some researching. We're going to deep dive it today. It's a crazy one. So yes, shout out to 𝗂𝐻𝐻. She did help me with this case, with the idea of it. So I appreciate it. And we will stay covering it. So who is Dr. Devon Hoover? On the screen, let me know if you guys can see it. The PowerPoint, sound good, everything. Are we good? Yes. Yes. I flaked. Yes, we were supposed to do a vertical last night, but I ended up being on panel with YouTube Streets pretty much for a couple of hours. So check it out if you haven't. It was a very good live, a very good way to spend my night. So I do apologize for not doing a vertical. I want to do a vertical after this. We need to address some stuff. So we'll see. Oh, nice. Yes. Yes. Welcome everyone to 𝗏𝗟𝗶𝗲. I appreciate you guys for being here. So on the screen is Dr. Devon Hoover. Who is Dr. Devon Hoover? He is a 53-year-old male. He was a Mennonite from the Mennonite religion. He's a board-certified neurosurgeon. He was born to Clarence and Loretta Hoover on November 18, 1969 in Elkhart, Indiana. Devon was a fourth child of 7 growing up, and until he left for college, he worked on the family dairy farm. He also, he grew up to study medicine, and after graduating from Indiana University School of Medicine, he relocated to Detroit, Michigan. He practiced for 27 years before his death. He specialized in neck and back disorders, and that really drew my attention to the case aside from 𝗂𝐻𝐻 recommending it, but I actually work for a surgeon that specializes in this as well. So it was very interesting, and I can relate to the great things everyone had to say about Dr. Devon Hoover. He is very successful, very kind. All his patients love him. He was a family guy, very well respected, very wealthy. He lived in a beautiful home, which they call the museum, and we're going to kind of touch base on that here in a second, and then I'll show you guys a picture, and you'll see why I mentioned the home. If you are not familiar with the case, I'm so excited that you are going to hear about it here. I know 𝗏𝐶𝐶 said she was not familiar, so 𝗂𝐻𝐻 said putting this link on the Facebook. Yay! Okay, I don't have Facebook. Yeah, so if you ever catch me on Facebook, that's a pretender. That's not me. I'm not on Facebook. But yes, maybe I'll get one to get on that. I would like to be in that group. So I love Paulando Gracie. Yes, you recommended him to me. Meet me at the kiosk. What am I seeing on Reddit? There's so much. Oh, on this case, or you mean weed? Yes. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for being here. Jenna Gypsy, hello. Happy New Year. I'm glad you made it. Hello, beautiful Queen Olive. It's good to see you. I'm not. Okay, Britt says she's not familiar with it. Great. I don't know this case either. Yes, I love this. Okay. Hello, Misty. Good to see you. I'm not familiar. Yay. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to continue Dr. Hoover. So, like I said, his house plays a huge role in this case. And he's a very wonderful man. From what everybody says, we're going to watch a couple clips. I'm I'm a PowerPoint girl. Like, I don't know. That's probably old school to people still use. I use PowerPoint all the time. I'm a nerd, but yeah. So we're going to go through this PowerPoint, and I'm going to show a couple clips. we're going to watch a couple of news clips, like a couple minutes long. I do want to watch the entire presser on this, which is like, I think like 19 minutes. So that is a full video I do want to watch. We're going to watch, you know, our guy, Vinny. We're going to watch a clip from Vinny Politan covering this case, which was a while ago. And then I have a 2-minute clip from the court case, the court hearing for the person. So moving on, he practiced for 27 years and he specialized in neck and back disorders, Dr. Hoover. He was regarded as one of the top medical professionals in the state, and he was previously named in the Our Detroit magazine as one of the leading neurological surgeons in Detroit in 2008. He was a pillar of the community. While he was living in Detroit, he began working at Ascension St. John Hospital. He did live alone in his beautiful house, which I will show you a picture of. And he lived alone in the Boston-Edison historic district of Detroit in a mansion of 13,000 square feet. It's a very upscale neighborhood in the city. And according to its website, numerous Michigan celebrities, including heavyweight boxer Joe Louis and baseball star Willie Horton, have lived there. There's about 900 homes, and it's one of the largest residential historic districts in the nation. So he was living in a very prominent, very supposed to be safe neighborhood, et cetera, right? Kate Court did tell me some information too about, you know, people having security cameras, and I do believe that there was probably security cameras. We don't have footage of that, but I feel like it could possibly come up at trial if there is one. We'll touch on that in a second, but I'm not exactly quite sure what's going on with the footage of the security. The other security cameras from the other homes, because I feel like there's probably a lot, right, in such a fancy, wealthy neighborhood. Yay! Barbara, you made it. I'm so happy you finally made it. We were just talking last night on YouTube Streets about how I hadn't seen you in here, and I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being here. Happy New Year. Hello against all logic. Happy New Year. Set online. Yes, it's wild. And I have some pretty good clips. So I did a lot of watching clips. I couldn't get legal documents. I'm in the works of getting that, but because it happened in 2023, but the case, there's no updates for about 15 to 16 months. So it's kind of like an older case that hasn't been solved, but it's actually very new because he does deserve justice and there's going to be a court hearing coming up. So we'll touch on that in a second when we get to that point. But since he had purchased the home in 2008, he had been steadily transforming it room by room with period decor and carefully selected antiques. His home was considered like a museum, and he opened the doors to his home for everyone. That was like a very important thing to mention, because he opened his home to family and friends, and he did a lot of fundraisers, a lot of meetings there, a lot of parties, a lot of celebrations, a lot of professional stuff there. So it was one of those houses, you know, very fancy and very beautiful. So let me show you the house. There it is. Beautiful, right? I haven't heard about this case. Yay! Okay, there's a lot of us that hadn't heard about this case. I'm very excited. So this is a house. And he spent a lot of time into that. And I'm going to play a clip from Vinny, and it's just kind of an introduction like I just did. It's a 1-minute little clip. And we're just going to play these specific clips that I think play a role into what I found online about all of this. And so let me pull it up. Give me a second, okay? Please don't come for me. Okay, let's see. Inside joke, if you haven't been here before. Okay, can you guys see that okay? Let me know. I can make myself smaller too. If it's too small, pause. Yay! Augie's here. Hold on. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Are we good? That better, or which is better? Nice, says Gracie. Okay, that'll be good. Can you guys see it? Yeah. Best. Yay, Barbara. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. I'm so happy you're here. I appreciate that. Thank you for supporting. Thank you all for being here. What up, New Age Plug? Shout out to New Age Plug in the house. Happy New Year, by the way. Yes. Thank you, Augie, for being here. Love you, Augie. And thank you, Barbara, for being here. I'm on with Barbara, so she's a very cool person, and I am glad that you are here, Barbara. Okay, are we good? Can you guys see the screen? Okay, good. Let's get started.
Dr. Devon Hoover was a...
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry.
In the Boston-Edison district.
I'm sorry. Not that you doing you dirty
Dr.
again.
Devon Hoover was a wildly successful neurosurgeon in Detroit. His patients raved about him as a doctor and as a man. Dr. Hoover lived alone in this sprawling mansion in the Boston-Edison district. Inside the mansion, 13,000 square feet of classic decor and art. Dr. Hoover would often open up his home for fundraisers and social events. In all, the doctor was living his best life and helping others along the way. But on April 23rd, 2023, when Dr. Hoover did not show up at a family function, police were called to do a welfare check. And when they arrived at the mansion, no one answered the door, so police went inside. That's where they found Dr. Hoover's lifeless body, the victim of a violent death. Who would want to murder a man who was loved by so many and helped so many more? Tonight, we take a look at the evidence, the mansion, and the autopsy of Dr. Hoover as we investigate the murder at the mansion.
Okay, there's Vinny's dramatic intro, but I love it. It gives a lot of information right off the bat, so you're familiar with the case. Yeah, I know. Shake my head. Yes. Okay. So there's his house on the screen. And again, what happened? Why are we talking about Dr. Hoover tonight? So on April 23rd, 2023, there was basically, he was supposed to show up in Indiana to visit his sick mother. His mother was terminal, and he ended up not showing up. He didn't show up, and his family was concerned about it, right? And so they did a welfare check. And I believe the first time they just kind of showed up and there was no signs of anything. But later when the case basically they ended up leaving, the police did. And then they ended up finding, it all took a turn when there was a local resident that reported a Range Rover, Dr. Hoover's, that was obstructing their driveway on April 22nd. So they went there once, saw the Range Rover, left, and then they heard about the Range Rover. So they ended up, with the family welfare call, they ended up going back to the house. And that's when the police got to the house and they discovered, well, before they got to the house and they found the Range Rover, they discovered that there was blood in the Range Rover. And they figured out, obviously, that it was registered to Dr. Hoover. So the officers went back to the home that evening, and that's when they found that the driveway gate leading back of the house was open. And so the officers went back and knocked on the door, and they got no response. But with the welfare check, they noticed, and the gate being noticed, they thought it was suspicious. And as they were looking through, and they noticed that there was blood on the back door. And so they forced their way inside. Yeah, terrifying. So Dr. Hoover was found at 53, dead inside of his Detroit home. Again, while they were doing the wellness check. So they were originally called, like I said, he didn't show up to the family gathering. So that's what prompted them to go to his home. And they ended up finding him dead in his house, upstairs in a crawl space. So his cell phone, his wallet, and his credit cards, and his 2 watches that were super expensive, and $30,000 was missing. So for 15 months, there would be no updates on the case. And I'll talk a little about how he died in a second. But they ended up finding his body, like I said, in the crawl space, and they ended up arresting a person, which we'll get into as well in a second, and then releasing them, etc. But I'm going to play another clip from Court TV, it's going to kind of explain what happens next in the case. And then I'll check back in with you guys too in chat. And I hadn't heard, like I said, I had heard about the case, but I never really did a deep dive or anything like that. So give me a second. Let me pull up the next clip that I want to play. It's part of the same. I'll link all the links to down below so you can watch the video. Hello. Let me know if I'm saying your name right. Hamila? I apologize if that's not right, but 𝗂𝐻, let me know too. If 𝗂𝐻, you're still here, let me know. I think you're a pro on this case, so let me know if you, sounds very sad. Let me know if I'm saying anything that's incorrect, but I'm gonna pull up the next clip.
At the end of August, Detroit police said they'd have an announcement in the murder investigation of Dr. Devon Hoover by the time that snow hit the ground. Well, here it is, and loved ones want to know, where's that announcement?
We're prepared to have an announcement before snow hits the ground.
As snow covers the ground in Detroit this week, loved ones of Dr. Devon Hoover aren't thinking about how cold it is. They tell me that they're thinking of that statement made by Detroit police at a police commissioners meeting on August 31st. It's been 7 months since the 53-year-old Detroit surgeon was found dead, shot in his home, and nearly 3 months since that announcement was promised in his murder investigation. Best friend of Devon Hoover, Carol Gove, says she and family have heard nothing.
It's a huge rock on my head. It's like, it's not just me, it's just pressing. If the police don't have anything, then just say so. I can accept that. You know, it was wrong information. It was wrong to make a statement like that. They don't have anything. Or if they do have something, they do know who it is, but they can't make a conviction or, feel that they can get a conviction, then just tell us anyway.
I reached out to Detroit police to ask for an update and an interview on the investigation. I was told that no one was available and nothing has changed.
Do family and loved ones feel that there has been enough transparency in this investigation?
No. No.
Former federal prosecutor 𝗵𝗿𝗲 tells me it's possible Detroit police aren't debriefing anyone to make sure that crucial information doesn't leak. He also pointed out that police have said the case may be domestic and that
makes it more difficult in the sense that you can't just say X's DNA was in the house, X must be a suspect, because if it's an acquaintance, you expect to find the DNA in the house. So it makes it more difficult to investigate and prosecute.
In that same August meeting, police said that they are working on a to-do list for the prosecutor's office. 𝗏 says work on that list, like reviewing electronic evidence, can take months. And the announcement that loved ones are waiting for may come when that list is complete.
I just want it to be over. I just want them to say something, just so we can just put it to rest.
Crime Stoppers of Michigan is offering a reward for any information that leads to an arrest in this case. In Detroit.
So if you're a little confused, let me explain. So they ended up finding his body and they didn't have anybody to charge. And if they did, they kept it. I believe they needed to get enough evidence and information about the person or people who were involved in the murder, right? But like I said, for 15 months, it would go without any updates. So I can't imagine that. Hello, 𝐿, by the way. I was we were watching the video, but I wanted to say hello. Thank you for being here. Happy New Year. Hello, 𝐿. I see Snow, you think there's footprints and DNA. Yeah, well, I think it's all going to come out in the next few months because it's a little confusing. So they find the body, they have nothing for about 15 months. And if they do, they're investigating. It could be that the investigation took that long, right? What do I know? I mean, they probably want to make sure that the person responsible gets charged to the full extent. But, I can't imagine the family having to live not knowing what happened for so long. And then this person who we're going to talk about, the person responsible, he has a history as well, which we're going to look into. But I'm going to pull up, oh, my bad, wrong one. We're going to talk about how he died and the autopsy and the manner of death. So he was found upstairs in the crawl space of the attic. He was shot twice behind his right ear and the back of the head. And there was a quote unquote partial muzzle imprint on the inferior edge of the wound. According to the autopsy, there were also abrasions that indicated that Hoover was face down with the left side of his face against a surface for at least one of the gunshot wounds. He was found in the crawl space nude, wrapped with a comforter, sheet, and rug. So whoever did this tried to cover it up, and it's so brutal. What a terrifying way to, this is terrifying. The autopsy report also said that his body was dragged in the prone position after his death to the crawl space in his home. So he was dragged up the stairs naked in the prone position to a crawl space, wrapped in a comforter and covered with a sheet and rug. He had no clothing on except one black sock. So, hello, Dee Dee. Good to see you. Happy New Year. You're not late. Thank you for being here. Yes, exactly. So he was murdered in April 23rd. And for months, they just would give little bits and pieces of information if they had anything. So again, he was found with just one black sock on, and that plays a huge role right into why he got murdered and who was responsible for the murder. You did hear about this, but not a lot. Okay, let me pull up the next clip. We're gonna watch a little clip on the medical examiner report.
Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
A great many questions surround the death of Dr. Devon Hoover at his home in Detroit. And tonight, we're starting to get some answers. We're glad you're with us for Local 4 News at 11. I'm Devon 𝗃𝗃.
I'm Kimberly Gill, the beloved neurosurgeon and neighbor, found shot multiple times in the head after police were called to his home in the Boston-Edison district for a welfare check. Mara McDonald is live with the official medical examiner's report and what it reveals. Mara.
Hi, Kimberly. That 𝗍 report coming out tonight. And, you know, originally the information we got was that Dr. Hoover was shot one time in the head. Well, now we know that's not the case. He was shot multiple times. Hoover was a talented neurosurgeon, and it was his skill and bedside manner that has patients just overwhelmed with sadness at the murder of what one described as a beautiful mind coupled with a beautiful soul.
If you know anything or you have any idea, like, tell somebody, because this man did nothing besides amazing things for people.
Hoover loved being a surgeon, and he loved his neighborhood. He moved into the Boston-Edison district and meticulously cared and restored his Albert Kahn-designed home, originally constructed in 1915 for the founder of 𝗵𝐶, sharing his beautiful house with those around him and offering up help to those undertaking caring for a historic home. Since the discovery of his body on Sunday, the DPD has been very quiet, which tells you they aren't lacking info and have not appealed to the public for assistance. We know there was no forced entry to his home. The 𝗍𝒄 confirms he was shot in the head multiple times, and police sources have made it clear the operating theory is he knew his attacker. Back here live to say that what happened at this home has flabbergasted this community is not an overstatement. Whether it's people at the hospital, people here in Boston-Edison, people affiliated with groups that he was affiliated with, no one can believe that a man who is universally described as generous and kind would be the victim of something like this. We're live in Boston-Edison.
So there you go. It's terrifying, right? Before we go into who is being accused of the crime, there was an incident that happened right after that Dr. Hoover was found dead in his home. There was a break-in his house. Whether it was a crime of opportunity or it originates back to the murder, that is yet to be told by law enforcement to us, but it is, they are saying that it is Hoover who was responsible. So he was, okay, so the break-in at the home was during the night of April 29th into April 30th, about a week after his murder. His funeral was held on April 30th at 1 p.m. So the break-in happened, so that was hours after the break-in. There is on May 1st, 2023, the Detroit Free Press states, the night before loved ones were to celebrate the life of slain Detroit neurosurgeon Devon Hoover, his home was broken into. Detroit police said an unknown suspect broke into the Hoover's home in the Boston-Edison Historic District overnight, sometime between Saturday and Sunday. No one was home during the break-in, and it's unknown at this time whether items from the house were stolen, according to police. Police did not say whether the break-in was connected to the killing due to the active investigation. So this is back in April of 2023. So when I say at the time they didn't know, it was at that time, but now they do know, right? And, you know, during that time when they weren't charging anyone and this was happening, they were thinking like, well, who would kill him and do this horrible thing? And then who's breaking into the house? Is it someone that just took advantage of it? Was it the person being, you know, allegedly who committed the crime of unaliving Dr. Hoover? We're going to play another little clip about the break-in of the house. And also a little bit about the autopsy. Give me a second to pull it up. And then I'll check back in with a comment. Sorry, I have to like multitask. Don't come for me. Please, please. I hope you guys had a good night, by the way. Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. All right, let's move on to the next clip.
How this really began, right? You go inside this house, he's found in a crawl space. What does that tell you, if anything, about what may have happened or who, what type of person we may be looking for here?
Well, it tells me a couple of things. It tells me, obviously, they wanted the body not to be found. They wanted to hide it as long as they could. It also tells me they may have some familiarity with the house. A house that big, the crawl spaces are usually way up. Obviously, they're accessed through the upper floors. So depending on where the murder happened, it tells me the person could have been and might likely have been familiar with the house and where that crawl space was. Obviously, they had to have known it was there to put the body there. So that's what you start looking at. You start piecing up, is this someone that's been in the house before? Did they know where this crawl space was? They had to know it was there. Did they stumble across it, or did they know it was there and then bring him there? So preliminarily, you start putting those kind of pieces together.
Joseph Scott Morgan, looking at the scene here and what happened, they don't believe necessarily that anything was taken, right? You've got this house, and you look at this house, I mean, there are just things of value everywhere. Yeah. Yet they don't believe this was a robbery.
Yeah, you know, what would be the motivation behind this other than, I think, at least from my perspective, some kind of intimate connection. The most chilling bit of this, you know, is, as Bobby had mentioned just a moment ago, I think that this speaks to familiarity with a structure this size, 13,000 square feet. But the fact that Dr. Hoover was absent his clothing, that's a kind of a telltale for me. And, you know, Caitlin had mentioned earlier in the earlier segment that you've got this covering that's going on. When he's discovered, he's actually discovered in a prone position, which means face down. So his face is certainly not in view. You know, in my experience, when you're working with the dead and you come across a case like this, if the face is obscured in any way, we actually have a term called face covering with that. But they went an extra step then. They covered the body in these layers. I think that we have a sheet. I had heard a comforter as well, and a carpet. So you've got this layering that's going on as well. It just smacks of intimacy to me.
Erica Morris, I want you to take a listen to the Chief of Police, James White.
I'll tell you what led to the welfare check. A member of the family called because he did not show up at an event that he was expected to show up at. When the officers arrived on the scene, they were quickly concerned about some of the things that they saw. And as a result, they went into the home, and the rest is where we find ourselves today.
Erica Morris, the things that they saw, right? They're doing a welfare check, which are relatively common, but they see things that lead them at some point eventually to the attic, to this crawl space. But the things that they saw, crucial in this case.
Let me touch base with the chat because I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Someone asked how old he was. He was 53. This is outrageous. Chicken Nugget, you are tardy. I will not give you detention today, but thank you for being here. Happy New Year. He did. He looked very young. We love you, Chicken Nugget. A lover. Ooh, a lover. Great, great suggestion. Hello. Hello, Laura, by the way. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Yes, K Court says his family did a wellness. They found the door open. He was found on the 3rd floor in the crawl space. Yes, that's right. Dee Dee, the trial, we'll talk about what's going on with all of that in 1 second. A robbery could be, perhaps. Gorgeous home, very gorgeous home. Watch, if you missed the first part of it, we show pictures of it and go a little more in depth. Hello, Shiraz, where did this happen? This was in Detroit. There's no trial date right now. He has a hearing coming up. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Perhaps, yes. Laura, I'm assuming you've heard of the case. Hello, Tony. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. Hi, Gringa. Hello, love. Good to see you. Happy New Year. I was tardy. All right, all of you get a pass today. It's a new year. We're starting clean slate. We're going to do a vertical too. We're going to talk a little more personal stuff. But I did see something today. I thought it was funny. It was this meme, and it was like, to anybody I offended this year, work on yourself so I don't got to do it again in 2025. I thought that was funny. Anyways, Happy New Year. Back to Dr. Hoover.
Crucial, man. What I would expect is that there was some type of an indication of a struggle. Caitlin mentioned it earlier. This home was meticulous, and so for things to be out of place certainly would have caught their attention. I have a friend who's actually in Detroit, who's been working the story on the ground ever since it happened. Talked with her a little bit today, and she really feels that the indicator coming from local law enforcement is very similar to that of what we saw in Moscow.
Laura.
Was that everybody's kind of assuming that law enforcement isn't doing a whole bunch here. Oh, they really are. They're working a lot behind the scenes. They're remaining tight-lipped because I think they have a really good indicator of who did this, but also they don't want to tip off that individual that they're that close, or that they're as close as they are. This person clearly had familiarity not only with the house, but was comfortable enough to be in it for an extended period of time. We talk about, and I think we're mentioning it later, how long it takes to drag a body with dead weight. This was not an act that was committed in a matter of minutes. So this is definitely someone that felt comfortable enough to have free reign. And I think when they first got into that scene, they saw indicators that something was clearly wrong.
Bobby Chacon, let me ask you and follow up on
I'm playing this clip because I think it's very important, the details there.
If you've got a situation now where someone is in there and is comfortable, familiar, etc.
Okay, Sarah.
They had to know each other. So how difficult is it to dive into someone's life to figure out what's going on in his life and who he's interacting with, number one. And number two, if they have someone specifically in mind, how close of an eye will law enforcement keep on that person to make sure that they don't leave and abscond?
Well, first of all, I agree with Eric. I think they have who they think it is. And I think we've heard something like that from the chief, who's saying we're working close with prosecutors. They've given us kind of a checklist to go down for this person. And I think that if they do have that, in fact, they're very, very closely watching that person. Your first question was, how do we determine that? Well, if it's an intimate partner situation, we talk via text, we talk via phone calls. emails. They're looking at all of that, who he's communicating with, even in situations where people want to keep those partners private or those relationships private. There's still some form of communication that happens other than face-to-face. And you try to get at that communication. Is it a text? Is it an email? Is it phone calls? And so you're looking at his phone records. And so all of those types of things have been examined. And then you start narrowing the people. I mean, they may have walked in and there may have been indications for, there may have been 2 place settings and there may have been a half-eaten dinner on the table for 2 people. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, somebody else was in here eating dinner with this person. Who was that? And so that may have been what they found, because the chief was somewhat circumspect about what they found in the house. He didn't say signs of a struggle, which is normally what they would say. Maybe there was indications of 2 wine glasses or something like that, where they know there was somebody else in the house with him that night having some kind of social event and stuff. And so I think that they're looking at all that, and then you start narrowing it down. There's 4 categories of people, right? Family, friends, co-workers, and then the catch-all is that 4th was a handyman, other people that do business around your house. So the person's going to fall into one of those 4 categories. And here it looks like a social acquaintance. They pretty much said that. And so now you can narrow it down. Look at his phone records, look at his emails, his texts, and all that. And, because it's impossible to carry on a relationship without that kind of communication these days.
Now, Joseph Scott Morgan, I want to put this up on the screen from the Detroit Free Press. The night before loved ones were to celebrate the life of slain Detroit neurosurgeon Devon Hoover, his home was broken into. Detroit police said an unknown suspect broke into Hoover's home in the Boston-Edison district overnight, sometime between Saturday and Sunday. No one was home during the break-in, and it's unknown at this time whether items from the house were stolen, according to police. Police did not say whether the break-in was connected to the killing due to the active investigation. What do you think of this post-murder break-in?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things can be
I love
opined about, relative to this. Was it something in order to go and clean up afterwards, or to pick up evidence, or to collect something, perhaps? I have no idea. I think that that's something that they would look very closely at. And also, it's very bold, isn't it? When you begin to think about this, this is not something that you would normally see in a crime scene, where you might have an individual that had come back for something, perhaps. One other thing I think I'd like to point out here
We're all thinking very personal,
back
right?
to these
Personal
coverings.
case.
I'd be very interested to know if there's any kind of dynamic deposition of blood, particularly on that carpet, that the carpet was used perhaps to wrap the body in, because it's where, he may have been killed upon that surface. In order to obscure that, were they trying to hide evidence vis-a-vis that? We know that he sustained gunshot wounds. Was there an attempt to pick up spent brass at the scene, which are the expelled shells, empty shells, that would have been ejected at the scene if it was a semi-auto that was used? I think that all of the stuff is being considered by Detroit PD at this time.
All right, our investigators are staying.
Okay, so again, we're going to talk about, because a lot of you are saying like, oh, was it a lover? Could it be a lover? Is it someone that, knew he had all this money, and et cetera, et cetera. It was personal though, right? Like I said, because he was found naked. It was a boyfriend in the kitchen. Wait, I don't think the boyfriend in the kitchen. Jojo, behave. Hello, my 5 teen cats. So when did this happen? April 23rd, 2023, my 5 teen cats, but there was no information or updates given by 𝗟EIE for about 15 months. And the person that was responsible, we're going to get into who that was here. Let me just get there. We're going to play. Oh, yeah, the game of Clue. It is. I got you. My bad. Okay, we're going to finish watching that clip just because it gives a little bit more information on this before we move on to who is held responsible.
He had such a future ahead of him, helped so many people. He's a brilliant surgeon. He'd opened his house to events to the neighborhood.
Dr. Devon Hoover, a neurosurgeon who helped so many people in his career, 53 years old, shot and killed inside his own home. It happened in the spring, and still tonight, the case has not been solved. No one has been arrested, although it appears investigators have a suspect in mind. Let's take a look. We did get some information from the autopsy report from the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office. The death was caused by multiple 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Manner of death, homicide. Fracture pattern in the skull indicates that the decedent was shot first behind the right ear and then sustained the contact shot on the back of the head. The abrasions indicate he was face down with his left lower face against a firm surface for at least one of the gunshot wounds, and that his body was dragged in a prone position after his death. Still with us, Bobby Chacon, Justice Scott Morgan, and Erica Morse. Justice Scott Morgan, I'll begin with you on what we do know from this autopsy report. What does it tell you? What is significant here?
Well, they're talking about that the first gunshot wound that Dr. Hoover sustained was at a distance. It's indeterminate, so that means that there's no soot deposition, no powder deposition. I've got a mock-up of a skull that we use here at Jacksonville State just to kind of give you an idea of where this tracks from. So when you're thinking about the first gunshot wound that was sustained, the wound track is actually from the back of the skull to the front, and it is actually entering right here in the parietal area and forward to the temporal area. Now, this is at an indeterminate level. You can't, or range. That is that the end of the muzzle, there's a high probability that the end of the muzzle was at least 18 inches away when this was fired. So if you just think about talcum powder kind of floating through the air, you're not going to get the deposition. However, that changes when you move back here to the occipital area, the left occipital area of the skull. This is this bony prominence on the back of your head. This, however, was apparently a contact gunshot wound. So you have this first shot that begins on the right parietal area. This is this big bone right behind your ear and goes forward to the right temporal area. And it's probably at a distance. The next one, or with them hovering over him. And then the next one's up close. It's kind of the coup de grace, if you will. And here's something interesting, Vinny, that I discovered while reading this report. It's the idea that in both of these wound tracks, there are hemorrhage in both of these wound tracks. What that tells me is that these were sequentially quick, boom, boom, like this, so that you're still going to have the opportunity for hemorrhage to form in the second track, as opposed to this being a post-mortem event where they go back and say, you know, well, maybe after a few minutes, I want to make sure that he's deceased. This happened very quickly because you've got hemorrhage in both of the wound tracks.
Erica Morse.
Yeah.
The body was dragged in a prone position after his death. This is another significant part of what happened here and what it takes to be able to do that. Now, I don't know if adrenaline could get someone of small stature to be able to do that, or if we're looking for someone who's larger. Either way, this is an important factor in everything. They didn't shoot him and then just leave. They dragged that body.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And forgive me, because following JSM on a convo like this is not easy. Listen, in training, you know, I learned it from SAR training. You know, you're looking for a 120-pound dead weight body. You're feeling double that weight when you're trying to move that. This was, I think adrenaline probably did play a part in that. I'm having a hard time wondering, was there a second person involved in this, or was there someone called to help and assist? We don't know, again, what that crime scene looked like, but just, you know, me as a woman, I think I would have a really hard time setting up that scenario after the fact unless I had help. So it'll be interesting to see just the size of this individual and if they acted alone. But again, not my wheelhouse. Bobby and Joseph, definitely more appropriate on this one.
𝗵𝗵 ballistics in this case, gunshot wounds. How important will that be for the investigation? Can it lead to anywhere before you have a suspect?
It can. In this case, it doesn't seem like it might, because they had time. If they had time to put the body up in the crawl space, they had time to gather up any other forensic evidence that might have come from the gun, like a shell casing. But it does tell me something. I mean, it tells you whoever did this brought a gun to that house. If they haven't mentioned that the doctor had any guns himself, means the person brought a gun. And if you bring a gun to a social situation like that, you're probably thinking about using it. And the shot pattern tells me this is not somebody who's firing a gun for the first time. It was not, if you told me he was killed with a kitchen knife, I could say it was a crime of passion, that something erupted, you know, during the course of the evening. But this is somebody who brought a gun into that house and then used it pretty precisionally, pretty surgically, where, you know, the first shot is behind the ear, the second shot's to the back of the head, wanting to finish him off. He probably didn't, obviously, he didn't see the shot coming, either of the shots coming. So this is somebody that wanted to surprise him and obviously cause his death intentionally. So I would say we're probably dealing with someone with a criminal history, a criminal past.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would be looking at. Someone who's probably used a gun in the commission of a crime before. I would be looking at people like that. And anybody in his social circle that he's recently met, or somebody that's been in the house before, you know, you start narrowing that down pretty quickly.
Charged on May 17th, 2024.
Okay, so yes, I know you guys are all asking. It's a personal case. Here, we're going to cover who was responsible. So it happened April 23rd, 2023. For about 15 to 16 months, there was no update. They were investigating, no arrests, no charges until this year, May 15th of 2024. Desmond Burks on the screen, Detroit resident, 34 years old. I saw some of you, what's up, YouTube Streets? Good to see you. Shout out to YouTube Streets. This is him. This is a man. And a couple of you said it in the chat. He was allegedly the lover. He had an intimate relationship with Dr. Hoover, and he charged him for sexual services. Wow, a whole year. I know. Can you imagine the family? During the investigation, there were 4,000 communications between Desmond and Dr. Hoover. 4,000. Desmond Burks was first, after the crime had happened, he was arrested 5 days after Dr. Hoover was found. So April 28th, 2023. And then he was released on May 2nd. Why was he released? We see it all the time in true crime, right? That a suspect gets released, they don't have enough information. They don't have enough information to charge them, et cetera, et cetera. But then they commit other crimes, right, while they're free. And was that their bad, or was that, what do you think? Is it good that they waited so that they could charge this man? I mean, 15 to 16 months is a long time. So a little bit about Desmond. He had been in Wayne County Jail since May when he was charged with a road rage homicide on April 24th. So before he got arrested, he was involved in a road rage incident, and he ended up killing another person during this road rage incident. So he was out on, I believe, home detention, and the road rage incident happened, and he unalived someone else, and then he finally got on April 24th, and then he got arrested in May. So while he was out, he unalived somebody else, and then he finally got arrested for the involvement in Dr. Burks' unaliving. So the road rage incident was with somebody by the name of 𝗟𝗏 Salah. and 67-year-old male bumped into Burks' vehicle. Both men got out of the vehicles and became embroiled in an argument, and Burks allegedly punched 𝐭𝐻 and left him lying unconscious in the street. He later died of his injuries on May 11th. So Desmond Burks was arrested on May 15th, 2024 on a $1 million bond. So this is an alleged lover. I know we're wondering, like, what the heck was he doing with this person, right? I'm going to play this clip, and this is regarding Desmond.
Some people have been anticipating for more than a year the suspect in the killing of Detroit neurosurgeon Devon Hoover, brought up on charges including first-degree murder. Thanks for being with us here at 5. I'm Kimberly Gill.
And I'm Damon Fernandez. This is a new booking photo issued today after Desmond Burks was officially charged. Remember, he's already held in connection with the deadly beating of a Dearborn man, a full year after Dr. Hoover's body was found. Sean Lay has been looking more into this side of the story, and he's joining us live right now. Sean?
Damon, we're here at DPD
so upsetting
asking
and
questions of
frustrating.
DPD and the prosecutor's office to be completely accurate on this issue right now. But here's the deal. Desmond Burks, who you just saw there, was such a strong person of interest in the early days after Dr. Hoover's body was found in his mansion. He was detained by DPD for questioning. He was released. Now, the prosecutor's office says that's because no warrant request was given to them. He was released pending more investigation. That was just weeks ago. Burks was charged with killing a man in a road rage incident. That man's heartbroken wife sitting down with me late this afternoon. The beloved man on the right in this video, taken April 17th of this year, was Rita Sala. That's him at his shop in Dearborn, about to head home at 6 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, his wife, Dad, still could not reach him.
And I called my daughter.
Right, against our logic. Why would he be involved with someone like this?
I said, Sue,
especially
something
for
happened to your stepdad. She's like, why are you saying that, Mom? I said, because whenever I call him, he always answers.
This is the wife of the man that was killed on the road rage incident.
What was in your heart at that time?
Something happened.
Something bad.
Something bad happened.
Sala got into a fender bender. The other driver got out, hit Sala, knocking him to the ground.
My husband got out of his van and he punched him and knocked him down to the ground and fractured his skull. My husband went back, fractured his skull.
Rita Sala died this past May 11th. Tonight, his widow is shocked to learn that the man charged with killing her husband is Desmond Burks. He was officially charged today in the murder of Dr. Devon Hoover nearly a year before, April of 2023. Then Burks was held by police days after the doctor's body was found, but released pending the investigation. Burks did time for arson, had a felony gun conviction in his past. Sala's family says he was a danger to the public after Hoover was found. Why was he free a year later to confront their loved one?
I don't know if it was easier on us that my husband was not shot to death. You know what I'm saying? Shot, rolled up in a carpet, and ditched somewhere.
Like Dr. Hoover.
Like Dr. Hoover.
Remarkable perspective there from a woman who's just suffering the death of her caregiver, best friend, and husband, saying, well, the bright side or the silver lining could be that he wasn't wrapped up in a carpet and shot in the head like Dr. Hoover. This was a road rage incident. They're still dealing with that. So why, here's the big question for police and prosecutors, why was Burks still out after he was detained? You can't hold someone forever, 72 hours, no warrant request because one wasn't ready. So much more investigation had to be done. His past criminal history, guys, came up during the bond hearing for the road rage incident. That's why he got $1 million bond. That's what he's being held on right now. This is a lot, much more on this, and from the widow, and DPD says they're answering the questions in a statement. We'll have that at 6 on Local 4.
All right.
Okay. Frustrating, right? I know. We are outraged, for sure. He definitely shouldn't have been out. No, he definitely should not have been out. I agree. How did they find out that Desmond was involved? Investigators revealed cell phone data was tracked, and they found an image of Burks parking Dr. Hoover's vehicle, and the police searched Burks' home and uncovered one of his Cartier watches. And in April of 2024, they learned about another home linked to Burks, and that's where they found about an $8,000 watch that Hoover had purchased the day before his death. So on the screen, on that little news clip we just watched, they mentioned how he had prior offenses, arson, and there's the court docket. He did arson, 4 years, it looks like he did, and then weapons, felony firearms again, and then the road rage incident. So he did have a criminal past. Again, he was arrested and let out because they believed they couldn't charge him with enough for Dr. Hoover's death. I don't know. I find that to be, I don't know. I feel some type of way about that. I'm going to pull up the document. We're just going to go through it really fast since we've already seen the clip about the road rage incident. But I want to share from the prosecutors, the court document from the prosecutor about the road rage incident. So this was on May 24th, 2024. And it states, Prosecutor 𝐁𝐬𝐿 has charged Desmond Burks, 33 of Detroit, in connection with a road rage incident that killed Mr. Ridha Salah, 67 years old, of Dearborn at approximately 6:45 p.m. Detroit police officers were dispatched to intersection of West Chicago Street and Greenfield Road for reports of an unconscious smell. Upon their arrival, officers located the victim unresponsive, suffering from head trauma. Medics arrived on the scene and transported the victim to a local hospital for treatment. On May 11th, 2024, Mr. Salah succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased. It is alleged that while approaching the intersection of West Chicago Street and Greenfield Road, Mr. Salah's vehicle bumped into the rear of Defendant Burks' vehicle. Defendant Burks and Mr. Salah exited their vehicles and had a verbal altercation. It is further alleged that during the verbal altercation, Defendant Burks punched Mr. Salah, leaving him lying in the street before fleeing the scene. Investigation by the Detroit Police Department led to the arrest of Defendant Burks on May 15, 2024. He has been charged with second-degree murder. He was arraigned on May 16, 2004 in the 36th District Court before Magistrate 𝗟𝗟_Ramsey-Heath and given a $1 million cash bond with a GPS tether and house arrest if he makes bond. On May 24th, the probable cause conference, he was referred to the Forensic Center for Competence to stand trial by defense attorney Gabby Silver. His competence review date is scheduled for September 3rd, 2024 before Judge Kenneth King. So this man who unalived Dr. Hoover also unalived this other man. This is an excellent deep dive. Thank you, Dee Dee, and thank you for being here. Dee Dee and I, we go way back, right? And Happy New Year, by the way. So let me pull up the PowerPoint again. We see that, like we just read in that article, he has been charged with first-degree premeditated murder. Well, that changed. Felony murder, larceny over $20,000, using a computer to commit a crime, possession of a firearm, and three-second offense felony firearm violations when attached to each of the premeditated murder, felony murder, and firearm possession charges. So I do want to watch the press conference on his arrest and what the prosecutor has to say about the lover and what they are saying was the relationship with Dr. Hoover and this man. Let me pull it up. I do think it's critical to the deep dive, so we are going to watch it, and we get a lot of information from this press conference.
It's a lot of room. There's never any room for my notebook on here. Goes to count 1. Count 7, felony firearm, second offense, which...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I just put them up here? Okay. So you can still hear? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I know this is a long day. Wait for this particular case, but I want to start out this morning by welcoming you here. And I'd like to have everybody here that's up here with me to introduce themselves and just tell you what their role was in this case.
Detective Kelly McLaughlin with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, assisted Detroit Police Department in our office with the investigation into this murder.
Krista Klaczynski, I was support staff.
Lisa Lindsay, I'm the assistant prosecutor that's assigned to try this case.
And I'm Mike Glenn. I am the other assistant prosecutor that's assigned to try this case.
James White, Chief of Police, Detroit.
Sergeant Javaris Reed, officer in charge of the case. Detective Brad Comer, also officer in charge of the case.
Donna McClure, captain of homicide.
Lieutenant Matthew Bray, homicide task force.
Rebecca McKay, commander, major crimes.
Okay. Thank you. This massive investigation was conducted for over a year in conjunction with local, state, and federal law enforcement partners. This investigation spanned 5 states and 3 countries.
Thank you, Jen. I love how
Documents
organized you are on your
and
PowerPoint.
amounts of
today.
documents
Thank
and
you.
evidence
That means a lot.
were
Thank you, Jen.
recovered, analyzed, scrutinized, and then summarized to the tune of many terabytes worth of digital data. The investigator's report in this case is 181 pages. The states that I referenced earlier are Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Texas, and California. The 3 countries that I referenced earlier are, of course, the United States of America, England, and France. The law enforcement officers that I referenced, approximately 71 plus officers worked on this case. Again, both local, state, interstate, and federal. There were 87 plus civilian witnesses involved in this case so far. Of course, we had body-worn camera evidence. Over 77 body-worn camera evidence was recovered and analyzed and looked at, and that translates into hundreds of hours of video. Video interviews, there were 44 of them, again, over 100 hours of that video, and also video surveillance evidence, 24 different locations, and numerous green light surveillance video locations in Detroit, again, over hundreds of hours of worth of video that had to be examined and looked at. Of course, we had cell phone extractions in this case. Over 40 cell phones were examined, and that alone was over 2 terabytes of data.
Wait, over 40 cell phones? I'm curious to hear more about that. 40 cell phones?
We had over
A lot.
300 pieces of evidence that was collected. There were 134 search warrants executed, 94 items of evidence sent to the Michigan State Police Crime Lab to be analyzed. There was Cash App and PNC bank fraud. Over $30,000 worth was stolen. And again, more is coming in. There were 2 watches that you will hear me refer to earlier that I'll talk about later. One was worth over $6,000 and the other was worth $7,500. We also have a Range Rover that was worth between $72,000 and $81,000 that are also a part of this case. And those numbers are according to Kelley Blue Book. The total data received, again, several terabytes of data. And to try to encapsulate that down, if one person received and looked at all of this digital evidence in this case on a 24/7 basis, it would take them years for them to go through. That's kind of the magnitude of just the digital evidence in this case. Everything I'm about to say are alleged facts. The defendant is, of course, that we are charging today, of course, is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And on April the 22nd of 2023, last year, the Detroit Police Department received a civilian parking complaint, and officers were dispatched to the area of 9901 Coyle Street in the city of Detroit. Officers arrived and observed a white Range Rover blocking the driveway. They investigated further and noticed what appeared to be blood on the interior of the vehicle that was blocking the driveway. They secured the Range Rover, they tagged it as evidence, and towed it to the Detroit Police Department tow yard. The registered owner of that white Range Rover was discovered to be Dr. Devon Hoover of 150 West Boston Boulevard in Detroit. Detroit police officers went to that address of 150 West Boston Boulevard that same evening and noted that the driveway gate leading to and from the rear of the house to be wide open. They were unable to contact anyone at that time at the residence, both knocking on the front and back doors of the house. The next day, on April the 23rd, 2023, Detroit Police Department received a 911 call from Dr. Hoover's family requesting a well-being check of his home, as they had been unable to reach him after he failed to come and see his dying mother in the state of Indiana. The Detroit Police Department went to 150 West Boston Boulevard and noticed that the driveway gate leading to the rear of the house was wide open. Further investigation revealed the presence of what appeared to be blood on the rear exterior side of the back entrance door of the home. A decision was made to force entry into the premises, and during that protective sweep of the home, Dr. Devon Hoover was found deceased in the third floor attic crawl space. He was face down. He was only wearing socks. He was wrapped in a blood-soaked carpet. He appeared to have been shot in the head. An autopsy was conducted, and the autopsy concluded that Dr. Hoover was indeed shot twice in the head. And it was the opinion of the assistant Wayne County medical examiner that the death was caused indeed by these 2 gunshot wounds, and the manner of death was homicide. After the discovery of Dr. Hoover, the Detroit Police Department's Crime Scene Services Unit arrived and processed the scene. Subsequent investigation revealed that the victim's cell phone, his wallet, his money, his financial transaction devices, credit cards, and designer watches were missing from the home. The investigation revealed that almost immediately following his murder, multiple fraudulent financial transactions were made from Dr. Hoover's various bank accounts. These transactions spawned for several days after that discovery. An analysis of the victims of Dr. Hoover's cell phone records revealed that Dr. Hoover had approximately 4,000 communications with a number attributed to a Desmond Burks, who resided at 9924 Sussex Street in the city of Detroit. The text messages established that Desmond Burks and Dr. Hoover were in an intimate relationship with one another, and that on occasion, Desmond Burks would charge Dr. Hoover for these sexual services.
Wow.
The investigation of this case was further complicated by the fact that many witnesses were extremely reluctant to come forward to share sensitive and personal information. The analysis also indicates that the day Dr. Hoover was murdered, Dr. Hoover's cell phone traveled from his West Boston Boulevard address
I'll cover that
to the area of Desmond Burks' address on Sussex. Dr. Hoover's phone appears to return to West Boston for a short period and then travels back to the area of Desmond Burks' residence on Sussex again before traveling to Fairlane Mall in Dearborn. Dr. Hoover's cell phone never returns back to his residence on West Boston. Numerous pieces of corroborating evidence place Dr. Hoover's cell phone in the same location as Desmond Burks. The evidence includes, but certainly is not limited to what I'm about to say. Dr. Hoover's cell phone detail records, Google account search warrant returns, Desmond Burks' cellular phone detail records, Range Rover geolocation data, Project Greenlight video, 9901 Coyle Street video, and Golden Fantasy Jewelry Store video surveillance. Other physical evidence was discovered directly linking Dr. Hoover's property to Desmond Burks. On the date of the homicide, Desmond Burks is seen on surveillance camera parking Dr. Hoover's Range Rover near 9901 Coyle Street. He being Mr. Burks, is seen limping away carrying a backpack, and his fingerprint was discovered inside that Range Rover. At the time, Desmond Burks was known to walk with a limp due to previously being shot in the hip. Search warrants conducted at Dr. Burks' residence led to the recovery of one of Dr. Burks' Cartier watches that I mentioned earlier. Dr. Hoover purchased this watch in the year 2020 for approximately $6,000. An additional search warrant concluded at another recently discovered address of Desmond Burks back on April of this year, 2024, led to the discovery of another of Dr. Hoover's Cartier watches, a watch that Dr. Hoover purchased one day prior to his homicide.
Wasn't a lover. It was someone who was having sex with and paying for, and someone who wanted money and drugs, right? Because
based on all of this evidence and much more further evidence, which we will outline in more detail in court. As a result of all of that, we are charging Desmond Burks today with 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder, count 2, felony murder, count 3, larceny of over $20,000, count 4, using a computer to commit a crime. Maximum imprisonment there is between 10 years or more, but less than 20 years. Count 5, possession of a firearm by a felon. Count 6, felony firearm second offense, which goes to count 1. Count 7, felony firearm second offense, which goes to count 2. And count 8, felony firearm second offense, that goes to count 5. Please remember, as I said earlier, that this defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And this is the same Desmond Burks that we charged on May 17th, 2024, with another second-degree murder homicide. On May 17th, 2024, we charged Desmond Burks, who was 33 at the time, in connection with a road rage incident that killed Mr. 𝐭𝐸, 87 of Dearborn. On October 17th, 2024,
So sad.
at approximately 6:45 p.m., Detroit police officers were dispatched to an intersection of West Chicago and Greenfield Road for reports of an unconscious male laying in the street. Upon their arrival, officers located the victim, Mr. 𝐭𝐸, unresponsive, suffering from trauma to the head.
So preventable.
Medics arrived on the scene and transported him
Edie.
to a local hospital for treatment. On May 11th, Mr. 𝐭𝐸 unfortunately succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased. It is alleged while approaching the intersection on West Chicago and Greenfield Road that Mr. 𝐭𝐸's vehicle bumped into the rear of Desmond Burks' vehicle, the car that he was driving. They both got out of their cars and there was a verbal altercation. It is further alleged that we announced on the 17th of May that during this altercation, Mr. Burks punched Mr. 𝐭𝐸, leaving him lying in the street before fleeing the scene. And as I said before, he later died of those injuries.
Terrifying. Road rage. Wow,
I
Dr.
should
may have
note
paid
that
him off.
Mr. Burks is currently in the Wayne County Jail on a $1 million bond.
Yes,
No
we're
10%.
going to talk about what we
His
think is
lawyer
going
in
on
that
here.
case requested that he be evaluated for competency, and that
Pour
request
me a
was made
glass.
on May the 24th, 2024. The
My
next
5
court
cat.
date for him in that case is September the 3rd, 2024, before Judge Kenneth King of the 36th District Court. That hearing is a competency review date hearing. You will receive an electronic
Probably
copy of the press release in
going-
this case after this press
okay,
conference
yeah.
has been concluded. We are told that the arraignment is tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. And that's all the information I have about the arraignment tomorrow in this case. So I'd like to invite the chief now to make some remarks.
Thank you, Madam Prosecutor. I just want to thank the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for their collaboration. It's a very complex and
15
comprehensive
to
case.
16 months.
They all did incredible work. As you've heard, this investigation is very detailed and very comprehensive. I want to say thank you, a personal thank you to one of the hardest working
If it was
teams.
DNA,
in the
why would
Detroit
they need
Police
to take
Department. The men and women of the
16
Detroit Police Department do an incredible job. And our homicide team has been working tirelessly on this case.
They did do a rape
I can't
kit,
tell you
fingernail
the many
trimmings, et
meetings
cetera,
and
for
briefings
the autopsy too.
that we have had. You've
did
heard
assume it
how
was
lengthy
someone he was
the investigator's report is, and a lot of
intimate with.
work went into this case. I also want to give a special thank you to Lieutenant Matthew Bray, Sergeant Jarvis Reed,
Right, upon them.
Sergeant Steve
Yeah.
Ford, Detective Brad Comer, who's the 𝐂𝐼C, and Detective 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, who could not join us here today, and certainly the command team led by our dynamic Assistant Chief and Chuck Fitzgerald, Deputy Chief Kerry Sloan, and certainly our Commander, Rebecca McKay. So thank you all for your hard work. And certainly thank you to the family and the loved ones of Dr. Hoover, who have been very patient with this department, very patient with this process. As you heard with the number of investigations that had to happen and people talked to from around the country and outside of the country. And as you will hear as the case unfolds in
Really
court,
scary, yeah.
this took a lot of time and a lot of hours and a lot of work. Again, that's all I have at this time.
And thank you, Chief. And before I take any questions, and I'll take a few questions, I just wanted to kind of echo what the chief said on our side. When I talk about the work that was put into this case by these prosecutors, support staff, detectives in my office, and you're more than support staff, Krista. And so I'm talking about every weekend.
I like this prosecutor.
I'm talking about almost 24/7. I'm talking about interviews, countless work on a daily basis for over a year.
Extremely patient
And
by
other cases
Gaylord.
to try as well. So with that, I'll take some questions.
We're going to listen
Chief
to
Prosecutor, what made the difference? Like, why now?
Why now?
Why now?
Because we came to a good place in the investigation to be comfortable to charge this case, that we could do it beyond a reasonable doubt as we have to stand up in court and defend it. So we were not ready. And as y'all know me well enough by now, we take our time on cases that we can charge quickly. We charge quickly on cases that we can't. It doesn't matter to me what people say. We're going to take our time to make sure that we get it right.
Oh.
So we feel comfortable at this point in time. We feel very comfortable, extremely comfortable at this point in time that we can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. But it was a lot of work to even get to this space.
Was there something about the case that was filed in May that helped you reach the finish line?
No, completely unrelated.
Charges of it.
Completely unrelated.
Things weren't disclosed, or, oh, by the way.
Well, we were very careful, obviously, after we charged him with that case. But again, the case at that time this case was nowhere near ready to be charged. And the investigation was really going forward at that time. So,
can you explain this? You mentioned these other countries. As I listen to your narrative, there's some thefts and obviously homicide. What are the connections to these other countries?
Again, we will. I've said more in this press conference than I have probably since we charged the mayor many years ago. And so anything else that is to be said in this case will come out in court.
It's going to be so good. We're going to talk about court stuff in a second.
Yes.
Can you explain the length, duration of
We're
their
going to talk about it.
acquaintance and what may have been motive in this case?
Again, as I said in my remarks, there were 4,000 text messages between the two. We know that the evidence will show that they had an intimate relationship, as I spoke of earlier. And beyond that, I'm not going to say anything. That's saying a lot right there.
You can't say if they knew each other for years, for example.
I can, but I'm not going to.
Handgun recovered?
Again, I've said what I'm going to say in this case.
Was he released because of no murder weapon?
No, he was not released for that reason. Not at all.
Was he traveling to these states and countries?
Again, no. But we will, again,
The
point out the
attitude.
significance of those other countries and states when we go
I like
forward.
it.
And then he was under surveillance.
I do. Jen says she's intimidating.
That's a
She's
cheap
probably
question.
great in the courtroom. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we continue to work the investigation.
Took too long.
We wanted to know certain aspects of his movements, and no one was beyond who were already
I
victimized.
think more will
or at
come out.
any risk.
What length of the
We were comfortable with
investigations?
that.
Yes, you're right. They mentioned several states and countries.
At all to this work?
Was
Not related.
Desmond a
The two cases are not
professional
related at all.
in scheming?
One was a
No.
road rage incident, and
Richmond.
the other was a what I described today.
Scheming and
Not related
scheming.
at all.
We love her. We do love her.
One or the other.
One had nothing to do with the other.
Oh,
Can you elaborate at all on witness reluctance and how that might have, in a time sense, impeded your investigation?
Well, whenever we have reluctant witnesses in any investigation, it impedes things sometimes greatly, sometimes even longer than that, sometimes years before we
yeah,
can go
maybe
back
he has other
and try a
victims.
case.
Right.
But I think based on what you've heard me say about the nature of the relationship that Dr. Hoover had with this defendant, I think you can kind of extrapolate from there why people would not want to come forward. It's a very difficult
Relationship,
intimate
sex
personal situation.
relationship, drug relationship, all of the above.
Location.
Did Dr. Hoover want to cut everything off with Desmond, and he
It
shot
took time to
him?
do
Did
everything.
this?
And everything
So
that
many
can be done in a case where a car was involved
answers.
was done. I've been doing this for a very long
Wonderful.
time, and new technology was more than I've ever seen before in many aspects of this case. And so what they can do now to help with investigation is phenomenal. And I must say that we had pretty broad
Hello,
cooperation
Emily.
with
Good to
all the
see you.
entities that we had to contact to help us put this case together.
So, Chief, it wasn't, let me ask you one question.
Sure.
Wasn't like video of him
Like
getting
Mr.
a brain
Deadly.
and him being a suspect. It didn't continue to develop. Is that how it worked out?
Yeah, so we're not
Augie.
going to talk about the
You're not
specifics
wrong.
of the investigation. That part will come out in court.
Thank you, beautiful Sarah.
But we're very confident in this case and very confident in the hard work and minimum of the Detroit Police Department and what they have brought forward as far as evidence is concerned regarding this case.
BURKS? Burks, how you spell
BURKS.
Do we have a schedule for the arraignment for any other future court dates?
The only thing that we received from the 36th District Court this morning is what I've already said, and that's that we were told literally before I walked in here that the arraignment would be tomorrow at 10:30. That's all the information that I have.
Prosecutor Woody, can you address whether Dr. Hoover was attempting to end this relationship?
I don't know that. And again, to the extent that we can have to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt,
Right.
and meet the elements that we've charged of each crime, we know what we need to know. I can't tell you, nor would I, even if I knew, the intimacies beyond that. It was an intimate relationship.
Intimate relationship.
That's really all I can say at this point.
Oof.
I don't know how long.
Appreciating you can't share details now. Are you able to say if you know or believe you know? As
She's
to
like,
what led to that
quit
meeting
asking.
that day?
Again, I'm not going to go any further than what I've already
No,
done.
but I'm asking if you feel you know that versus being able to share that now.
I'm not even going to comment because if I say I know, you're going to ask me what I know.
All right, I get you.
Yeah.
Ooh, I really do like her.
Was there one thing that sealed the deal for this?
Well,
Laura, I want to touch back on your comment in a
pages
second.
of things that really sealed the deal for this case. But again, you know, it's been ongoing work for a year, and very high level
Happy New Year,
elements of the
Killis.
investigation that came together. You know, once
for being
we
here.
recognized that it was a personal relationship type situation, we were confident that this wasn't a situation where other people were going to be targeted by the suspect. We were able to focus in on the elements and aspects of that investigation, but not one thing.
I apologize if this has been asked regarding countries. Like, how did this span other countries and states?
Again, evidence in the case led us to have to contact individuals and companies in other countries and other states.
Okay, what?
We basically follow where we follow where the evidence took us. No
Other
matter where it took us.
countries? K-Court? What do you think, K-Court?
And again, this is only the tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the
as
iceberg.
As we both said.
And it's already
181
wild.
pages of an investigative
Wild.
report that
Freaking out.
that was put together for us to be able to bring it to the magistrate and get this case, get him arraigned. All right.
Has Mr. Burks offered up any comment to investigators about this case?
You know, that's definitely an area that I can't go into. That would be unethical, and I'd be risking my bar license. So I'm never going to comment on what I know what a defendant says, especially outside of a court venue.
Okay, so there it was. Wild. Tip of the iceberg for sure. So sad. I wanted to touch back on what Laura said. The doctor could save so many lives. Not only did he take away his life, he took away so many other people's. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what makes it so sad, right? Is he was such a good man, but he was living a double life. We're going to talk about that. I want to read a, let me find it. This statement by his family after Desmond got arraigned. It says, the investigation of our brother's murder has never been far from our minds since April 23rd, 2023. Today, we feel relief for a step towards justice. We feel grateful for the dedicated teamwork and sacrifices of the Detroit Police Department. Most of all, we feel the loss of Devon. Once again, he was an exceptional man, a doctor, brother, son, uncle, and a friend who invested in our lives with unwavering kindness and generosity. So that goes into my questions, is the double life. He was living a double life, right? Such a prominent, educated, wealthy, professional individual. What was he doing messing around with someone like Desmond Burks? Was it someone he met on Grindr? Was it just a lover? Was it maybe it started out as a lover, turned into a drug thing? What was going on? Why are there other countries involved? Who's involved? Sexual relationship, a love triangle gone wrong, a crime of passion. Burks is known for selling rugs. YouTube probably doesn't like me very much because I'm saying the bad words. Burks is known for selling rugs and sex to white men in Detroit. I found this I did some deep diving. I went down a rabbit hole, but allegedly Burks was introduced to Devon through one of Devon's friends who Desmond was originally having a sex relationship with money for. According to a Facebook post, obviously Desmond was bi, allegedly, and there was someone that mentioned that he had a long-term girlfriend and children. We don't know that yet, but allegedly the girlfriend was involved in using the money that was stolen. I don't know if that's accurate. Sometimes I found that on Reddit, so I do think it's interesting, though, that allegedly in his home there was like new electronics, a dryer set, and credit cards that belonged to Dr. Hoover. So his family had no idea that he was gay or bi, Dr. Hoover. He came from a very religious family, so I'm sure it wasn't something he wanted to announce. and want the world to know, being such a prominent person. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but you know how it is. And the family, they were overwhelmed with the media attention, and they stepped out of the public eye when all of this started coming out. They even requested people in Detroit not to organize rallies and protests, which I'm not sure how effective that was. These other old rich married guys didn't want to admit they were swindled by this guy. We will never know until we know. Nice, Melly, you went uber deep. Yay, exactly, 𝗂𝐻. Risky business. If Desmond loved him, I don't know. We do see people who unalive each other all the time, though. I don't know what could have gone wrong to do such a heinous thing to someone who was like also supplying your lifestyle, right, in your life. Like, why would you unalive him? I guess maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. You'll see why. We're going to get to, okay, we're going to, yeah, risky business. Crime of passion type of thing. Yeah, maybe. Could be. I'm going to play another clip. It's a 3-minute clip about how everyone in all his friends and the people that knew him had an idea that Desmond was a person. Again, it took 15 months, so I have a lot of questions about that.
It's the murder that took more than a year to charge. A Detroit surgeon found shot to death and wrapped in carpet in his attic. Tonight, we hear from someone who knew both the doctor and his accused killer. Thanks, everyone, for joining us here at 6. I'm Karen Drew in for Kimberly Gill tonight.
And I'm Damon Fernandez in for Devon Skillian. Now, the woman we're about to hear from knew all about the man with whom her friend, Dr. Devon Hoover, had been spending time leading up to his murder in April of last year.
Now, she says she was one of several people who pointed police toward Desmond Burks right away.
I do think
Sean Lay joins us live. And Sean, just like a lot of other people, Megan Beamer has some big concerns about how long it took to bring charges against Burks.
That's the key to her speaking out to us today. And look, I'm hearing from a lot of you in the last few days have tough questions about this very complicated case. But look, Megan Beamer is her name, friends with Dr. Burks, friends with Dr. Hoover, I should say, while she was in the house. There were times when Desmond Burks was here also. He was a friend and he was in there from time to time. But when Dr. Hoover's body was found up in the 3rd floor attic area, she says she immediately thought of Burks and wants to know why it took so long to charge him.
He called me and told me that they did, in fact, pick up the person who we all said it was from the very beginning.
𝗂𝐻.
From the jump. They finally picked him up.
Her name is Megan Beamer. She wanted to speak out to me tonight. She not only was a close friend of Dr. Devon Hoover, but she also knows his accused killer, Desmond Burks.
Did you know his name back then?
I know Des. I know who Des is. I know what Des does.
The neurosurgeon was found murdered in his Boston-Edison home April 23rd of 2023. But Wayne County prosecutor 𝗵𝐬𝐻 charged Burks with the doctor's murder last week, some 16 months later, saying witnesses were reluctant to come forward due to the doctor having an intimate relationship with Burks. Beamer says Detroit police were pointed to Desmond Burks by Hoover's friends from the start.
Everybody knew exactly who it was. Like, you can go on the Facebook group and see. We've all known.
And sources confirmed to me tonight that Detroit police arrested Burks 5 days after Hoover was murdered, but released him. I'm told more evidence for a murder charge was needed. And while police continued to investigate Burks, nearly 1 year after the doctor's death, Burks is accused of killing 67-year-old Rita Sala during a road rage incident this past April.
Why was he not kept in jail? Then another family wouldn't have lost their family member like we lost Devon.
All right, back here live in Boston-Edison now. Devon Hoover case here. Burks released after a few days after being held last year by Detroit police. Police tell me that the case simply was not ready. More evidence was needed. More details on that will come out in court. Burks being held on $1 million bond for the road rage incident. Guys, Beamer tells me that all of this, despite any relationship and any intimate relationship, was all about money and getting money, and that's how she believes that
all about
is the
money
motive to this killing. We're live tonight. Show online, Local 4.
Right. How wild is this? I'm freaking out. Freaking out. I wanted to show some pictures of Dr. Desmond. We're going to talk about the charges. It's a little confusing because he was arrested, and then released in 2023. Then the road rage incident happened in April, and then he got arrested in May. And it's been an ongoing thing. So we're going to talk about the issues involving the court in just a second. I did want to show some pictures of Dr. Hoover. Such a good looking man, right? Very professional. R.I.P. Dr. Hoover. R.I.P. I'm going to pull up a timeline, and then I want to play. There hasn't been much on this, on the hearings online, so I was only able to get a few different clips of there was a hearing 4 months ago, and then there was one 2 weeks ago. So before I pull up the timeline, we're going to review the charges, and then we're going to watch those. They're just 4-minute clips. So the status of the case. His lawyer requested on May 24th, 2024, that Burks be examined for competency. 𝗵𝗂𝗯𝘀𝗰𝗿𝗲, who we just saw on the screen, she announced charges against a Detroit man, Desmond Burks, on 8/7/2024, currently in custody on a separate homicide and the death of neurosurgeon Devon Hoover, who was found deceased in his Boston-Edison home. He was arraigned on first-degree murder charges on August 8th, 2024, and he appears for a competency hearing on August 15th before Judge Kenneth King via Zoom, which we're going to watch right now. It's like a 4-minute clip. And then he was scheduled for another hearing, whether he's competent enough or not, in November, pending a re-exam with the Forensic Center regarding the Hoover homicide. So now that all has been changed, and the new hearing is on February 14th, 2025. So we do have to wait to hear what is going on. I'm going to play the clip of the hearing from 4 months ago, and then I'm going to play the recent one from a couple weeks ago, which is like 2 minutes long. So let's get started. This is from 4 months ago.
Case number 2405-724801 of the state of Michigan versus Desmond Burks. Defendant is charged in count 1, homicide, murder, second degree. Defendant has a habitual offender for defense notice, mandatory 25-year sentence. Defendant also has case number 2405-869301. Defendant is charged in count 1, homicide, murder, first degree premeditated. Count 2, homicide, felony murder. Count 3, larceny, 20,000 or more. Count 4, computers used to commit a crime.
This is from the first hearing 4 months ago.
10 years or more, but less than 20. Count 5, weapons, firearm, possession by a felon. Count 6, weapons, felony, firearm, second offense notice. Count 7, weapons, felony, firearm.
That's Devon in the corner right here, top right.
Count 8, weapons, felony, firearm, second offense notice. Defendant has a habitual offender
wrapping
for
them up in the
defense
car.
notice, mandatory 25 years sentence.
Yes.
Appearances for the record, please.
Each other.
Good morning, Your Honor. Lisa Lindsay on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan, P number 39570.
And good morning, Your Honor. Mike Glenn for the people. My P number is 77516.
And good morning, Gabby Silver appearing on behalf of Desmond Burks.
And is that you, Mr. Burks?
Yes.
Tell me your name for the record, sir.
Desmond Burks.
All right. What's your pleasure, Mr. Silver?
Well, Judge, as it relates to this matter, there was a competency referral on Mr. Burks' earlier case. We have received a report back from the Forensic Center. I am requesting an independent. That I am requesting time to do the independent. I don't need to make a request for an independent. We also believe, I did have a discussion with Mr. Glenn about this yesterday, and we think that we need to re-refer him on the new case, but I will have the independent done as to both matters at the same time, so we can move forward.
Okay. So explain to me why we need to re-refer him for the new case.
Because there's still an issue, as I believe, as to competency, and I don't think we can legally use the original competency report in this case.
If I could just interject here also, Judge, I believe because a part of the competency evaluation is they go over the actual charges that the person is facing. He has not been, the new charges have not been talked about with him as part of the competency evaluation. So I believe it has to be
He's competent. He's a criminal. He unalived that person in a road rage incident. I mean, hello.
So Ms. Sylvia, you're gonna have your independent working.
Yes, Judge, that is my intention.
Okay. All right, then the court will refer the defendant for
Right, now you're incompetent.
evaluation.
Right,
We'll set a due date November 15th, 2024 at 8:30.
I would anticipate that we'll be able to do this earlier because he has been seen already once. So I am contemplating that we'll be able to get this done earlier.
Okay, so whenever we receive a report back, I have 5 days to notify you guys and get you in.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, when the court enters its mutual order of discovery, will the court also order the production of the investigative subpoena transcripts as well?
Oh, yes, please. I would ask that the investigative subpoena transcripts be ordered. Thank you.
No, I haven't. In fact, somebody send me over an order.
Thank you. We'll do that.
Okay, so that was a hearing from 4 months ago. Here's a little timeline before we get to the last clip from 2 weeks ago, where they decided that the new hearing would be in February of 2025. So April 22nd, of 2023, police received first call about Hoover's Range Rover. On April 23rd, police find Hoover dead inside his home. April 28th, Burks is brought in as a person of interest in Hoover's case. April 29th through the 30th, someone breaks into Dr. Hoover's home. April 30th of 2023 is his funeral. May 2nd of 2023, Burks is released from custody. April 17th, 2024, Burks is accused of punching 𝐭𝐸 during a road rage encounter. May 11th, 𝐭𝐸 dies from his injuries. May 15th, 2024, Burks is arrested and charged in the deadly road rage case. May 24th, 2024, lawyer requests competency examination for Burks. August 7th, 2024, Burks is charged in the Hoover murder case. August 7th, 2024. So this happened in April of 2023. Again, a very long time. August 8th, 2024, arraignments for Burks on the Hoover murder charges. August 15th, 2024, Burks appears for probable cause conference. November 15th, competency review hearing scheduled for Burks. Yeah, imagine the length on this discovery, right? So now we're going to watch the hearing from just 2 weeks ago. It's 3 minutes long. And then we'll finalize the case in live. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. It's a very interesting case.
To
And
pass
we're
on this
definitely
matter
gonna
is
keep up with it.
Sonia.
This is from 2 weeks ago.
𝗏𝗃. Never could pronounce her last name. Sorry.
What was taken at the break-in? Jewelry, money.
Thank you, though.
We don't know what else yet. We're going to find out.
Number 2457248. The people of the state of Michigan versus Desmond Burks. The defendant is charged with count 1, homicide, murder, 2nd degree, habitual offender, fourth offense notice. Also calling.
Yeah, the kiosk. Hello. Good to see you, love.
458693. The people of the state of Michigan versus Desmond Burks. The defendant is charged with homicide, murder, 1st degree, premeditated. Count 2, homicide, and murder. Count 3, larceny, $20,000 or more. Count 4, computers used to commit a crime. Count 5, weapons, firearm possession by felon. Count 6, weapons, felony firearms, 2nd offense notice. Count 7, weapons, felony firearms, second offense notice. Count 8,
Did they take a
weapons, felony
laptop?
firearms, second offense notice.
Possibly.
Consider first offense
Good
notice.
point, Mink.
Today is the date and time set for a competency hearing.
To hide evidence,
Hearing
right?
complete.
Good morning, Your Honor. Mike Glenn for the people. My P number is
Look how creepy
77516.
he looks in the bottom right. Or
Your Honor, Lisa Lindsay on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan, number 39570.
And good morning, 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗲, Desmond Burks as to both matters.
Okay, I am out sick. I don't have any files. I don't know what the status is. I don't know what's going on.
Why is he not
We
competent?
have received the competency reports from the
bull.
Forensic Center as to
He's
Ms.
competent.
Burks on both matters. And I am
He has
having
anger
an
issues.
independent evaluation done. My doctor
Lock him
says
up,
she
right?
should have this report done
Wasting
by the first week
resources.
of February.
Ugh.
So I'm asking the court to set this
Get
for
all the
a
time into
hearing
crime.
at that time.
Any objection from the people?
No, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor. I would just ask that if it's set, that it would be set on a Friday because I have a pretty heavy trial schedule in February, and Fridays will work out best for me.
I agree with that.
No problem. Madam Clerk can
I know,
provide a
K-Court,
Friday.
that annoyed me. She's like, I'm sick. I don't have
Friday in
anything.
February.
I don't have my docs.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what she said.
I was just confirming a Friday in February.
Yes.
How about February 14th, Valentine's Day?
Nobody I'd rather be with on Valentine's Day than you, Miss Lindsay.
Oh, okay. Chill out, lady.
That's
Chill out.
I guess I'm not
Okay,
going to be
so-
on.
February 14th at
9 o'clock on Zoom.
Okay, so you guys hear that. I don't think I'm going to play them talking about their schedules. So, right. So that was a hearing from a couple weeks ago. And now we have to wait till, what was the date I said? February 14th, Valentine's Day, 7:30 a.m. We will be covering it. I don't know how much access we're going to get to it, but I will be covering it here on my channel. What do you think? The death of Dr. Hoover, so sad. What happened that night? Did Dr. Hoover try to cut Desmond off? Was it about money? Maybe Desmond was asking for more money. Maybe he was asking for more sex. I don't know. Who knows? We don't know, right? There's 181 pages in the investigative report that is sealed as of right now, but I have put in a request. So hopefully it's in my favor and we get it. Yay. Thank you, Dee. I'm so very sad. So very sad. Yeah, he deserves justice. We need to know what happened that night. My heart goes out to his family, you know, such a smart, successful man. I can't imagine. There's so much more too that I'm sure we have no idea about. And I'm really excited to hear those details so that we can cover it. Great life. Thanks, Melly. Thank you, Jem. Cause of death. Yeah, he was shot and then stuffed in a crawl space in his home, in his beautiful home. I don't know if you guys saw the home at the beginning of the live, but I'll show it here again. There we go. Such a waste of a fantastic man. Yeah, I work for a surgeon, so I can emphasize with them when they're like, you know, such a good person was lost in the community, and for people who need that type of care, right? It's a very difficult, precise profession. So fantastic man. Yeah, I know. So I will keep following up on this case. Thank you to 𝗂𝐻. She recommended this case. Melly, did you see the comments while we're not during Hoover's funeral? No, I didn't. You should send me that, 𝗂𝐻. I would love to cover that. Yeah. So we're going to keep following this case. Justice for Dr. Devon Hoover. I appreciate you guys for being here. Happy 2025. I'm debating. I kind of want to do a vertical. We need to talk. I need to adjust some things. I just got back time to say too. Yes. Green guy, I might do a vertical. And you know, those verticals here, they're controversial. So I'm either going to come back with another live cover more true crime or vertical live. So I hope you guys can be there. Thank you, Emery, for being here. I appreciate all of you for being here. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. We will continue to follow Dr. Hoover's case. Again, thank you, Kate Court, for recommending it. Against the Logic is like, whatever. It's a vertical live. So we do like random true crime conversations, et cetera, et cetera. But it's basically just a live in a different format here. A short, yeah, kind of like a short, but I hope to see you guys here. We do have true crime planned for the rest of the week. So 2025, True Crime Never Sleeps. We're back to it, covering it on the 1st of January. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope to see you on the next live. Thank you so much for being here and supporting my channel. Like I said, I'll be back shortly with either a vertical or another true crime live. Yes, meet me at the kiosk. Good to see you. I'm glad you made it. And I hope you guys have a good night. If I don't see you back, I know it's a weeknight and we all have stuff to do tomorrow, but I hope to see you guys back. If not, then I will see you on tomorrow's live. We're going to continue true crime. Anyways, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Bye.